Hi you guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name's Angela, and on this channel I'm documenting my journey learning Spanish with Dreaming Spanish. I am a little over 120 hours in currently, and today I wanted to talk about an experience that I had going to Mexico at just 50 hours. Because it was very unexpected. A little backstory. So I had no plans of going to Mexico this soon after starting Dreaming Spanish. So I was about 3 weeks in when I actually went on this trip to Mexico. I had just gotten back from a trip to Mexico only about a month and a half prior. So like I said, this trip was super last minute. It was actually to go see the eclipse in April. I had zero expectations for anything related to my Spanish learning journey that far on this trip. I didn't even think anything of it at all. I was just continuing on as normal, doing my Spanish. You know, I'm 3 weeks in. It's really not something, I wasn't delusional to be like thinking, oh, it's gonna be, I don't know. So anyways, all that to say, I go to Mexico with zero expectations. I had just been there a month and a half prior, and I've been going for about 7 years. So I've been around the Spanish language. I have Mexican friends that they speak English around us. But all that to say that this experience really stood out to me because it was the first time things were very different. And I know that anyone further along in their Spanish learning journey who has come in contact with the language now out in the world, I know you'll know exactly what I mean when I say it felt like there's like this invisible wall that's suddenly broken. These doors are like opened up to you to a whole new world. And I'm saying that literally at 50 hours. So I was at 50 hours when I had this experience, but just because I've been there so much and this time was so different, it just felt like my ear was now tuned into the correct radio station, if you will. For example, if I hear someone speaking like Chinese or German or Russian, it's like you don't even really listen. You're not even really listening, or because it just sounds like noise, kind of. And that's how Spanish was to me my entire life, even when I was in Mexico. I get to Mexico, and on night one, I go out to eat with some of my Mexican friends. And the very first thing I noticed is when it came to them ordering their food, this is the first time I realized, oh my gosh, my ear is like attuned to the language. Of course, I couldn't understand everything they said, but they were using vocab words that I had learned through Dreaming Spanish. Like the word for cup, like they ordered a cup of coffee, things like that. I could hear it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm understanding what you're saying, or like I'm getting the gist at least of what you're saying to the waiter. Whereas before, you wouldn't even try to understand, or you wouldn't even listen, kind of thing. And so that was really exciting for me. And then that same night, another example is I got into an Uber to go home. It's called Didi, but it's basically an Uber. And I was with my mom. His car was a big truck, and usually they're usually really small cars. And so we were so shocked, and I asked him in my very little Spanish, is this your car? I think I said like something tu coche, and he starts rattling off only in Spanish. And then he's kind of cleaning up, and he says the word sucio. I know this word. All these visions of different videos I've watched on Dreaming Spanish are flowing through my mind as I'm like, why is he saying the word sucio? And I'm picturing, dirty trash, or them talking about things that are stinky on the Dreaming Spanish videos, on the super beginner videos. Finally realized he's trying to say that his car is dirty, and he's trying to like apologize for his car being dirty. And this was amazing because I was like, oh my gosh, this is the first time he's rattling off fully in Spanish, not trying to slow down or anything. And I'm actually picking up some of the things that he's saying. He goes on to tell us that he works on a shrimp farm, and he only drives Didi about once a week. But that's why his car is so dirty, because of his work. He's saying all of this in Spanish, and I'm understanding this. And this is so bizarre. Again, this is night one of me in Mexico, 3 weeks into this Spanish learning journey. I'm telling my mom what he's saying, and we're kind of both amazed that I'm like able to kind of pick up little pieces of what he's saying and actually be able to communicate with someone that otherwise I would have no way to communicate with. I'll tell you something that I watched on Greg and Lisa's recent video when they went out to eat with friends, and they kind of were speaking Spanish most of the night, and then they talked about how afterwards you kind of have this like Spanish high. You're like, I just want to continue, and you're just really going with the Spanish. And this had happened to me, even though I was only at 50 hours, and it wasn't so much with the speaking, because of course, but after that, I was like, who else can speak to me in Spanish? I just want to keep trying to understand Spanish. So I thought that was kind of funny. You just get so excited and just, yeah, it was amazing. I was there for 10 days. Just so many little examples like this had kept coming up throughout the trip, and it really made me excited to continue on my journey, especially just thinking about coming back, a year from now and how much different it'll be, how much further along I'll be. Another one was our security guard at the building we live. He only speaks Spanish. It was just little things that I was able to understand him saying to us. Like one time, because I'm from Minnesota, when I go down there in the winter, I'm still wearing shorts and like a tank top because it's warm to me, but to them, they have like their winter coats on. And so one night I had come back and I was in like, shorts or summer clothes, and he was asking me like, aren't you cold? And he was saying, you're gonna get sick. And he used all these words in Spanish, and I had known some of these words only because of Dreaming Spanish. And so I was able to understand him and acknowledge that I understood, and kind of we were laughing. And another time he was explaining, I asked them what they were doing because they were kind of going through the trash, and he was explaining how they had to separate the recycling and the trash and all that. So just little things like that, being able to connect with someone who I hadn't been able to really connect with him other than the like, hola, as we're leaving kind of thing. I just started thinking about, in a year from now, I would love to come down and just practice my Spanish with him and be talking with him and all that. My final story. This was really crazy to me. One night, me and my brother ended up going out with one of our friends who does not speak any English. And usually we're with other Mexicans that help translate. So I've never been one-on-one with this friend. We thought that other people were going to meet up with us, and so it just ended up not happening that way in the end. So here we are, me and my brother don't speak Spanish, and our friend does not speak English, but like listening to some music, walking around in downtown. So of course we're not just gonna sit there in silence, so we're kind of like trying to communicate. He knows I just started learning Spanish, but that's about it. He has very, very basic English. By the end of the night, we were communicating using Spanish. We were working together, many gestures and things like that, but we were really able to communicate and tell stories using our little Spanish. And I would translate for my brother who was practicing his English. Like he would say, "Como se dice this" in English, but he would say it in Spanish, and I would usually know what he was saying. Like he was saying "Como se dice mascotas" in English, and I knew that was pets only because of Dreaming Spanish. And so he would try to tell stories using his little English, and then oftentimes would come and ask me "Como se dice XYZ" in English. And then one time I would use words basically that I knew, even though they didn't mean what I was trying to say. Like I was trying to say, I didn't know the word for sounds, like sonidos. So I was saying ruido. I was like, no es ruido, pero like I don't know the word for sound. And he's like, oh, sonido. So we were able to communicate in this crazy way. Again, an example of, wow, a whole nother world is really opening up to me. I haven't been able to really communicate with this friend in a way that I would have loved to, and really getting to know him, getting to express my personality, having him be able to express his full personality, because you're very limited when you have a translator and you're around them all the time, but you're just not really speaking. And so it was really exciting. That was the final night there that had happened. And so I was just like on such a high, thinking about, wow, this is really working. This is really working for me. This is crazy, because all of these things that I was hearing and being able to understand, all the words, all the vocab was from Dreaming Spanish. It was not from my prior years of, learning in high school or anything like that. And so it just blew my mind. It truly blew my mind. And this is when I knew, like, this method really does work. I'm 3 weeks into this, me randomly kind of deciding to really start learning Spanish again, and here I am out in the wild hearing native Spanish speakers and actually able to the gist of what they're saying. Like I said in my other video, I love Mexico. Honestly, I love traveling in general, and I know that the way that knowing this language is going to just open up so many more doors for me to be able to connect with people of other cultures around the world is so incredibly special to me. And it almost feels truly to me like an answered prayer, because I love to connect with people in general, but also being able to connect with people of a culture that I care about so much. It just feels like I'm one step closer to really being able to connect. And so, yeah, that's my story. I hope to be back with you guys soon for another video. I had planned to do a video on getting out of the beginner slump, but I'm gonna say I need all the tips that I can get right now for getting out of this slump. So if you have any, please leave them below. And then once I'm finally out of it, hopefully I'll have a video giving some tips and tricks on what I did to finally get out of it. But thank you so much. I honestly want to say thank you also for all the love and support on my last video, and everyone who has subscribed. I truly just love this community so much, and I swear I'm having crazy ideas. Like, we all need to connect sometime, somehow, some way, organize a giant group trip or something and just hang out, speak Spanish. It's gonna be awesome. But anyways, good luck, you guys, on your Spanish learning journey. I will see you in my next video. Bye.